Hey everybody, welcome to the video. We are going road course racing once again this weekend at Sonoma Raceway. This will take place on Sunday, June 6th at around 4 p.m. Eastern. And this is our third road course race of the season. And they're starting to grow on me. I never used to be a big fan of road course races, but I guess I have to get used to that considering we have so many road course races this year. Definitely more than we've had in the past. So I guess it's a good thing it is growing on me. And I think they're pretty fun for DFS purposes as well. I just think from a fan standpoint, I do enjoy the strategy behind it, and hopefully we don't have to have another rain-shortened race, but I don't think that's going to be a problem here in California this weekend. So I'm looking forward to this race. I'm sure you guys are as well, or I guess you wouldn't be here. And if you do find this video helpful in any way possible, please leave a like down below. I know it's something super small, but it really does help the channel out. And if you're brand new to the channel, if you're just a frequent visitor and you think this video is pretty cool and you like the content here, please hit that subscribe button, as it really does help me out. And the more people that subscribe and leave likes and comment on the video, the more it's going to push it out to the YouTube world. I know like 40 to 50% of the people watch these videos have not yet done that, so it's just something small to help me out. And if you want to follow me over on social media, I'm at Pennell16 on Twitter, getting close to 2K over there, and CPen16 over on IG. Just need a few more there for 1,000, so if you want to help me out, feel free to follow me on social media. You can always hit me up and I'll probably respond to you. And if you want to help support the channel over on Patreon, link is down below for that. We got a few hundred people over there, and I think it's pretty much the best NASCAR DFS community out there. So if you want to join, hit that link down below, and it's the beginning of the month, so you get your best bang for your buck if you do. But it's just an awesome community. We have a nice Discord community over there. Everyone's pretty cool, pretty nice. Lots of good jokes there and lots of good strategy as well. We are 24/7 in there. And I got projections, my optimizer, which you can do pretty much everything you want with it. Build groups, lineups, 150 lineups, whatever you want to do. I got my ownership projections, which is that's the only place you can find it over on there. Rankings, cheat sheets, Discord community, I think I pretty much covered it all. But you get the entire spreadsheet, which has pretty much everything on here. If you can hear that, that's my dog in the background. I think he's pretty excited about the Patreon, so hopefully you guys are as well. But yeah, I think it's pretty much the best NASCAR DFS community out there, so if you want to join, link is down below for that. But I think that's it for the plug, so without further ado, let's get into the preview of this weekend's race. And as per usual, I gotta mention a couple things before we get into the actual preview, so just a couple housekeeping things here really quick. Number one, the live stream this weekend, which is always a fun time. If you guys don't ever join the live streams, I really recommend it. If you guys have any questions, I will answer it. It's just a good place to hang out before the race starts. But since the race is at 4, I'm probably thinking like 2 p.m. is a good time to host a live stream. It'll be right here on this channel that you're watching at right now. So make reservations for it. I'm thinking 2 p.m. is probably a good time to have it, just so we have an hour afterlock to build lineups and things like that and relax a little bit and watch the pregame on TV, or pre-race I should say, on TV. And if you want to join the DraftKings contest that I host each and every single week, just a fun way for me to interact with you guys, see what kind of lineups you're building, compete against me for money, and you can get a shout out on the channel as well, which is something I do each and every single week. So if you're in the podium or if you're in the top 10, you'll get your minor shout outs. But I do want to shout out the winners from last week, so I'll throw that on the screen right about now. Coming in first place, taking home the gold in their share of $100 some, because there actually was a tie for first place, I should mention. So Rex 23 and Smoking Guns 40 both had 417.95 points, tying for first place, which I think might be the first tie we've had all season long. Maybe we had another one, but they both took home around $100 some. And coming in third place, taking home the bronze, we had Maverick X11X with 411.5 points. Shout out to you guys who absolutely crushed it last week. And then the people right in the bubble, American Pharaoh 5, which I believe was their first time joining the contest. They finished in 4th. 4 Goose finishing in 5th. Kansas City 58 in 5th. My guy Binder Phil over there from Osmo, who I used to do live streams with, he joined last week. He ended up finishing in 5th. Thomas Karras in 5th as well. I think there was like 4 ties for 5th place. So it was a pretty chalky lineup. Actually, I could probably pull that up really quick on my phone here. So it was Larson, Kyle Busch, Byron, Mcdowell, Chris Buescher, and Ryan Newman. So yeah, outside of William Byron, it was a pretty good tournament play. It was ending up being a pretty popular lineup in this contest, and that was kind of the, I guess if we want to stretch it to the top 10 here, we had Hot Wings 74 in 9th, and then Pedro Martinez 1988 in 10th place. Shout out to everybody last week. You guys had awesome lineups, and again, if you guys want to join the contest, just comment that DK username down below. Say something nice with it. Say whatever you want. Doesn't matter to me. But I think that's going to be it for the little shenanigans here before the beginning of the video. So let's get right into the preview. So as previously mentioned, this is the Toyota Save Mart 350, which I actually don't think I did previously mention. I just think I said I was at Sonoma, but this is at Sonoma Raceway. There's your outline of the track. Yes, a lot of squiggles, which you will always see at a road course race. I believe there's 12 or 13 turns right at the top of my head, and it's nearly 2 miles in length. We have 90 laps scheduled, which means we have around 63 Dominator points available to us. So Dominator points typically at road courses aren't super important. Finishing position and place differential are going to be king this week. Yes, if we have a guy like Chase Elliott who leads nearly all the race, you're going to want that guy in your lineup, but for the most part, we are focusing on finishing position and place differential. The thing about road course races, typically the guys that start the race with track position can usually have a good time holding that, because track position is pretty important at road courses, not the easiest thing to pass here, so something to keep in mind. If you're wondering what similar tracks are to Sonoma, it's more of a technical road course, so I would say Watkins Glen and Coda are more comparable than the Roval races that we have at Charlotte and Daytona, but we're obviously going to use those as well because they're still road course races. I just think that Watkins Glen and Coda are going to be more comparable. It's going to be hard to use Coda numbers because it was just like they were playing in a rainstorm, so not playing racing in a rainstorm, so it's going to be a little bit confusing on how to compare those two because things were a little bit skewed. Like, yes, Truex wrecked out because he ran the back of, I believe it was Michael McDowell, and Cole Custer ran him over because they couldn't see. So I'm not sure I'm going to put too much into that, but it's something that's going to be useful heading into this weekend. But I think that's pretty much it for the preview for the most part. So let's get into the driver-by-driver breakdown portion of this video. And just my overall thoughts on the pricing this week is, my thought is it's just super soft. Like, you can pretty much do whatever the heck you want with your lineups. It's not like overly soft, but it is pretty soft for the most part. Like, we have no driver above $11,000. We have Truex starting 19th at a road course, a track that he's won like 2 times in a row at, below 11K, starting 19th. So that's going to be very chalky. So yeah, pricing is very soft this week. Shouldn't be too hard to build lineups. If you're someone that likes soft pricing, this is your kind of week. If you're someone that likes difficult lineup building, probably not your favorite week in the world, but there's definitely, it's kind of both ways, because when there's really soft pricing, there's going to be really chalky guys, but it's definitely good in tournaments where you can get pivot to get lower ownership guys. So just something to keep in mind here. But we're going to start up top with Martin Truex Jr., $10,900. He's starting in 19th, and it's going to be hard not to like Truex this week. I'm pretty sure he's going to be the highest owned driver in the entire slate. You guys can check that out in my ownership projections over on the Optimizer, but I'm having a hard time seeing a scenario where Truex won't be like insanely popular here at Sonoma. And one thing I want to mention, I miss having these practice numbers posted at Coda and Charlotte 2 weeks in a row. I've been able to have practice numbers posted. Unfortunately, that's not going to be the case this time around, but Truex is absolutely awesome at Sonoma. I mean, I realized there's been some races where he had an issue, which is going to skew these numbers, but he's got the second best driver rating, only behind Kevin Harvick. He's got 2 wins, 3 top 5s, the most laps led, and the most fast laps, and starting 19th at a track where there's not many dominator points available, so we're going to be really focusing on place differential and finishing position. Truex is pretty much near lock to finish top 5 outside of any issues, so I'm liking him a ton here. He's not overly expensive. His finishes at road courses, if you take away Coda because he wrecked out, 12th, 7th, 3rd, 7th, and 2nd, but that's not even having any Sonoma numbers in there because it's been like 2 years since we've actually ran there. Last time we were at Sonoma was in June of 2019, so it's been a long time, but looking specifically at the past 10 road course races, it's pretty much going to be dominance from Truex and Chase Elliott. There's some other guys that have obviously been good, but for the most part, it's been the Chase Elliott Martin Truex Jr. show, and wouldn't be surprised if that is the case once again. In the past 10 races at road courses, he's averaging the second most DraftKings points per race, the second most wins, 5 top 5, second most laps led, and the second most fast laps. Pretty much second behind everybody, or second behind Chase Elliott in pretty much everything. So loving Martin Truex Jr. here. I see no reason not to like him, and we know he's been good in the 750 horsepower package. And one thing I do want to mention is that there was a Bob tweet I saw this morning that I thought would be helpful for you guys, so I'm just going to quote it word for word here. This is right from Bob Podcast on Twitter. So they ran the 750 horsepower package with the carousel 2 years ago at Sonoma, but this is the first race with low downforce and the carousel. So most people expect Truex to still be good, but it really is an unknown since the track layout is different than the last time they had low downforce at Sonoma. I mean, I'm not really looking into it too much. Truex should be a boss here, so I'm definitely in on Truex, and more than likely will be my highest owned driver. I'm having a hard time seeing a scenario where that won't be the case, but if you guys are interested in my GPP driver exposures, I do post those each and every single week. I play the 150 max tournaments, so I cannot be more transparent than that. I lay it on the line for you guys, and I give notes on drivers that I think deserve to have notes, so my reasons why. So I do post my exact exposures on there, and you can either follow them or you can switch it up a little bit, whatever you want to do. Then dropping down Chase Elliott, $10,500. He is starting in second, which makes a pretty interesting conundrum here for DFS players this week, because I think we're all playing Truex, right? Obviously, we're not going to play him in each and every single lineup, but for the most part, we're playing a ton of Truex. So you're going to want to play with Chase Elliott as well. I will more than likely have some lineups with those two together, but it's hard rostering guys starting that close to the front at a road course because there's just not much dominator upside. But the thing is, a lot of these drivers starting in the top 10, I think, can stay in the top 10, and finishing position is going to be important in terms of DraftKings scoring this week. So I might just be pretty heavy on these drivers starting close to the front, even though it won't look that good on paper. It's just, I think they can hold their ground and they should be able to pick up good finishing position points. I will be pretty heavy on a decent chunk of these drivers starting up front, even though it might not look the greatest on paper. But Chase Elliott, what more is there to say about him? He's the road course GOAT for the most part. I mean, he's probably going to pass Jeff Gordon and wins at road courses. I don't think anyone would be surprised about that down the line, but the guy's been absolutely awesome. And to be honest, he very well could be 6 for 6 in his last road course races. I realize he got a bit lucky because of the rain at Coda not last week, but 2 weeks ago, but he was still put himself in position to win. But they did Roval earlier this season. He could have won that race if they didn't throw that rain caution, which was kind of bogus for the most part. So if you say that never happened, he won that race. We could be talking about where he won this past 6 road course races in a row, which would be absolutely insane. But 5 out of the past 6 is still pretty darn good. And if we're looking at the past 10 races at road courses, you guys get the idea. 6 out of 10, the most laps led, the most fast laps, the best running position, the best driver, and the best average finish, the best DraftKings points per race. I don't know what more you want me to say about Chase Elliott. The guy's awesome at road courses. I don't care that he's starting that far up front because he could easily get up front, lead half the race, and win, which is definitely possible. Now, the only issue is that Kyle Larson's going to be starting up front, and I realize Chase Elliott's better than Kyle Larson at road courses, but Kyle Larson was probably going to win that race at Coda a couple weeks ago until the rain caution came out, and he kind of got screwed because Chase Elliott was a few laps short on fuel, so he was going to have to pit. So, I mean, it's going to be hard between him and Kyle Larson. Obviously, I'm going to choose Chase Elliott. He has one more spot for place differential, plus he's just an absolute good at road courses, but I mean, Kyle Larson's just been so good this year everywhere. Like, he was a factor at the Daytona road course earlier in the season where he was up front, but he ended up breaking out. And then, obviously, like I just mentioned, he got screwed a couple weeks ago. And I know Chase Elliott hasn't been very good at Sonoma. He had that engine issue when he was running top 5, which is going to skew these numbers a little bit. And he only has one top 5 finish here, but I mean, he's probably going to win this race. I think he's like plus 220 in Vegas right now, which is insane for a NASCAR race. So I don't really have any concerns here. Love Chase Elliott. If I had to pick between one of either Truex or Elliott, I'm going to pick Truex in cash games this week just because there's a lot less downside with him starting at 19th, but both guys are phenomenal options. And Kyle Busch here, $10,300. He is starting in 5th. Kyle Busch seems fully back to me. Like, the guy's been pretty darn good this year. I realize he hasn't really gotten up front and dominating, but he's been good. And at the road course at Coda just a couple weeks ago, I mean, he was very good there. He got up front, and he was actually leading, and he ended up pitting. He could have won the race if he stayed out because Chase Elliott didn't pit yet. But they were like on similar fuel strategies there, and Kyle Busch ended up pitting. I think he finished, it's right here, he finished in 10th place. He was in position to win, so if he would have just not pit, he would have won that race due to the rain call in the race. But I like Kyle Busch quite a bit here. He's very good at Sonoma. He's very good at the technical road course races. He's terrible at the Rovals. Like, he has had pretty much the worst luck of any driver at the Roval races. Like, looking at the recent road course finishes here. So at the Rovals from 2021 to 2019, he's finished 35th, 30th, 37th, and 37th. But he finished 10th at Coda, and he finished 11th at Watkins Glen. He's also a recent winner here at Sonoma, and he's got some of the best numbers in the entire field here. He actually has the most top 5s. Hasn't really been much of a dominator, but one of the better driver ratings, the second best average finish, and one of the best running positions. So Kyle Busch, assuming Chase Elliott and Truex soak up a ton of that ownership, I imagine Kyle Larson will be popular as well just because he's Kyle Larson. I like Kyle Busch a lot in tournaments. He definitely has the upside to win this race. Starting in 5th, there's not a lot of place differential upside, but wouldn't surprise me if he ran top 5 all day. And if he does that, not a bad play over on DraftKings. Not someone I'm targeting in tournaments, in cash games, but in tournaments, I do like him quite a bit. Joey Logano, $10,100. He's starting 13th. It seems like all he does at road courses now is finish 2nd or 3rd, which, I mean, I'd definitely take that starting 13th. He's not going to grade out as well for me as some other guys, but I mean, the guy's just been really consistent at the road courses, like 3rd, 2nd, 9th, 10th, and 23rd. Last time we were at Watkins Glen, but I like Joey Logano. He's got a couple top 5s at Sonoma, starting 13th, $10,100. I think Kyle Busch will be more popular than Joey Logano. I think so will Hamlin. I think Kyle Larson will be, probably William Byron the way he's been running this year. So if you're looking for a low ownership tournament play, I think Logano is actually a halfway decent play here. And looking at his numbers at road courses, the past 10 races, 3 top 5s, 6 top 10s. So chances are he will finish inside the top 10. It's just that's a bit of a price point for a guy. I don't think that's probably going to win this race, but he's been very consistent at them recently. He did finish 3rd at Coda, so I can get behind a little bit of Joey Logano here in tournaments. And then dropping down to the 9K range here, it's again loaded with really good plays, and I think there's a lot of good plays this weekend for where guys are starting and their price points. So you're probably going to hear me say that a lot, but it's just the truth. I think there's a ton of good plays on the slate. Obviously, there's some guys I'm going to be fading, but think there's a lot of good plays, and it's a really good week to spread out your exposure. But Denny Hamlin, $9,900. He's starting in 4th. Really good technical road course racer. Very good at Sonoma. He's got 3 top 5s here recently. Average finish about 10th place, which for a road course is actually not that bad. And just some overall pretty strong numbers. He's been a bit of a dominator here before. I believe averaging the 4th most laps led per race and decent chunk of fast laps relatively to the field. And Denny Hamlin, we know, is a good road course racer. Looking at the past 10 races of these, he's finished out the top 20 each and every single time. 4 top 5s, 5 top 10s, has a 1, but I mean, he's one of the better road course racers in the field. And looking at his exact numbers, finishes recently 14th, 3rd, 15th, 2nd, 19th, and 3rd. It looks like there's a bit of a pattern here. Obviously, that means nothing, but if the pattern continues, that would mean he's due for a top 5 finish here. So I do like Denny Hamlin in tournaments. Wouldn't go there in cash games, but I like the price point. I assume Kyle Larson would be pretty chalky because it's Kyle Larson. So if you're looking for a direct pivot off of him, you could go with a guy like William Byron or Denny Hamlin. But talking about Kyle Larson here, $9,700. He's on the pole for a road course race, and Chase Elliott is right beside him, who I prefer. So I'm naturally just going to be heavier on Chase Elliott than I will Kyle Larson. But that's not to say I'm going to fade Kyle Larson. I still want exposure to him because the way that 5 car has been running this season, it's not going to surprise me if he could just stay up front, lead a decent chunk of this race, finish inside like the top 3, which even if he doesn't win the race, he'd still lose a couple place differential points, and obviously he'd lose that win bonus, but it might be enough for it to work. It can be a little bit rough on the pole, and I don't think he's a play in cash games or anything, but I like him in tournaments just because of the upside of it's Kyle Larson. The guy's an absolute monster this season, and he's shown us no reason at all to believe or not to believe that he can't be a contender in this race. So a tournament play only for me, but I definitely think he's someone we can look at, especially since he finished 2nd at Coda and honestly should have won that race. William Byron, $9,500. He is starting in 3rd. His history at Sonoma is not very good at all, averaging 9.6 DraftKings points per race, average finish at 22nd, and he has 1 top 20 finish. He has been a lap leader here before, 10.5 laps led per race, and the way he's been running this season, he's been one of the best drivers in NASCAR. I mean, pretty much like right behind Larson. He's just been so consistent each and every single week, and he's not bad at road courses or anything. He finished 11th at Coda, which, again, I'm not putting too much into Coda because that was an absolute dumpster fire of a race for the most part, but outside of that 33rd place finish at the Roval in 2021, earlier this season at Daytona, and 21st at Watkins Glen, I mean, he's been good this year, so I don't see why we can't play any William Byron in tournaments starting in 3rd place. I don't think he's going to be overly popular because he's $9,500 and he's starting 3rd, and people still don't like picking on William Byron too much because he just doesn't have that household name as a guy like Larson or Logano or Truex or Elliott have. It's like William Byron is a young driver, so it's hard to trust him as much, but the 24 car has been absolutely awesome this year. I mean, it's been astounding. I realize it's not been at road courses, but I'm still going to buy on some William Byron here. I'll have minimal exposure to him, but I will have a little bit just because the way he's been running the season, it's really hard just to completely cross him off your list, even though it's not going to look like a great play on paper. Ryan Blaney, $9,300. He's starting 11th. He's been pretty disappointing this year. Outside of that win in Atlanta, Ryan Blaney has not been very good, especially for DFS purposes. Like, I know he's been cheap and he's had some decent starting positions, but it just really hasn't been working out for Ryan Blaney. And while I typically like to use him at road courses, because the guy's a solid road course driver, and I believe he's finished 3rd and 5th the past 2 races at Watkins Glen and Sonoma, so there's obviously upside here. He finished 17th at Coda, 15th at the Roval this season, and 5th, 31st, 8th, and 5th. So I think if all goes well, he should probably be a top 12 guy, but it's been hard to trust Ryan Blaney recently. Like, you guys know I love talking up Ryan Blaney pretty much every single week, but I'm not feeling it a lot. You know, I'm obviously going to play some of him, but not going to go there in cash games, not going to go there in single entry tournaments. I'd much rather play Kurt Busch. I feel like Kurt Busch could probably finish ahead of Ryan Blaney starting like 20 some spots further back, 21 spots further back. So I'd much rather play Kurt Busch here. I think Kurt Busch is one of the best plays in the entire slate, but not super high in Ryan Blaney here. I'll have a little bit. I mean, obviously he's got 2 top 10s here in the top 5, so there's upside. It's just I do have my concerns with the way he's been running this season. Kurt Busch, $9,100. Starting 30th, kind of already talked about this, but he's one of the best road course drivers in the entire series. Very, very consistent at them. And starting in 30th, I know his price is a little bit up there, but I am not fading Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch will be one of my highest owned drivers of the entire slate. The guy is just very good at road courses. He finished 4th earlier this season at the Daytona Roval, and then he finished 27th, obviously, at Coda, but I'm going to give him a bit of a pass there because he ran into the gravel trap, which is obviously going to kill you. That was really close to right before the race was called, so he didn't really have much time to like make up ground for that. But average finish of 8.3 here at Sonoma, which I believe is the third best, only behind Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick. One of the best running positions. Only 1 top 5, but 4 top 10s and 6 top 15s. And he's also been a lap leader here as well, averaging 43 DraftKings points per race. So I'm having a hard time not wanting to play a lot of Kurt Busch here. Like he grades out very, very well for me. And looking at the past 10 races for him at road courses, again, just super darn solid. 3 top 5, 6 top 10s, and just overall one of the most consistent drivers at road courses. I realize the season for Kurt Busch hasn't been good at all. I mean, looking at his overall numbers this season, a lot of these are not at road courses, but 1 top 5, which was at a road course, 2 top 10s, and it's been ugly, man. It's been very ugly for Kurt Busch. Average finish of outside the 20th place, 20.4 DraftKings points per race, but since we're at a road course, Kurt Busch is definitely on my radar despite of how he's ran so far this season. Plus, he's just had a ton of bad luck as well. Dropping down to the 8K range, we have Kevin Harvick, $8,900. He is starting in 8th, and he's been one of the most hard-to-trust drivers in all of NASCAR DFS this season. But at this price point at Sonoma, which is a very good track for him, and I realize Kevin Harvick has not been the dominator self that he's been in the past, but road courses are just such a unique track. Typically, the drivers that are always good at road courses are typically good at road courses every single time. Like we've seen Ross Chastain, he finished inside the top 5, and even though he doesn't have a car that can dominate, Kevin Harvick, I would not be surprised if he could have a top 5 finish here. Like if Ross Chastain can do it, Kevin Harvick can do it as well. And I'm talking about Coda a couple weeks ago when Ross Chastain finished 4th, I believe. But Sonoma is a very good track for Kevin Harvick. He's one of the best drivers here. He's a winner recently. He's got 3 top 5s, 5 top 10s. I think the second most laps, only behind Martin Truex, and the second most fast laps, and some very good numbers. He actually has a better driver rating than Martin Truex as well. Much better average finish because he's just been super consistent. The most DraftKings points per race by like 15. So if you're going to play Kevin Harvick, I think this is a good week to do it. Or I should say if you want to play Kevin Harvick, this is probably a good week to do it because I feel like people are going to play him, but I don't think enough people are probably going to play him. Starting 8th here, we don't need him to win the race. We just need a top 5 finish, $8,100. Like if he was $10,000, I'm probably trying to stay away from Kevin Harvick, but below 9K, starting 8th, you can sign me up for him this week, and this is going to be the first time in a while that I've actually had any Kevin Harvick exposure. I can't remember the last time I played him. Maybe it was at one of his best tracks in Atlanta, but I've been pretty much full fade in the guy, and it's worked out. I mean, he's had some decent races, but for the most part, it has been working out. And he did finish 6th at the Daytona Roval earlier this year. He finished 37th in Coda, but I think it was him and Christopher Bell that got into it. Then he said that quote after the race where we have no business being out here in the rain. Not sure if he was just salty about wrecking, but I totally understand because they couldn't see, but I mean, Kevin Harvick grades out well for me. I mean, if he can finish 6th at the Roval, I think he could have like a near top 5 finish here at Sonoma. I love this price point. So I will be playing some Kevin Harvick this week. I'm not sure if that's a hot take or anything, but I do like that price point. Alex Bowman, $8,700. He's starting in 7th. I'm thinking I should just implement a Hendrick rule, which means I have to play like 20% Hendrick each and every single week. Like, how do you just not play these Hendrick drivers every time? I even made a tweet last week where I'm saying I gotta just go like 100% on these Hendrick drivers every single week because they keep performing. Like, I know his numbers at Sonoma aren't very good, but recently Alex Bowman's very consistent at road courses. He's finished 8th, 10th, 8th, 12th, 2nd, and 14th. That's very consistent. I realized starting 7th, he's only finished better than that once, and that was at the Charlotte Roval in 2019. But the way he's been running this season, is anyone going to be surprised if he gets a top 5 run here? Not really. The price is pretty low. It's definitely a tournament option. I feel like I'd prefer Harvick over Bowman, but I am not doubting these Hendrick cars anymore. They have been awesome, so I am definitely not going to doubt them. The past 10 road course races for Bowman, 9.5 average finish, 40.8 DraftKings points per race, 6 top 10s and 2 top 5s, so I will have some exposure in tournaments for sure. Brad Keselowski, $8,500. He's starting in 9th place. I'm kind of always iffy on Brad Keselowski at road courses. I feel like I'd rather play Bowman and Harvick, but I will play a little bit of Keselowski just because that price point's low. Like, when's the last time you've seen Keselowski at that low of a price point? So I realize there's not that much price differential upside, but the guy's consistently usually in the top 15 here, top 20, which obviously you're going to need more than a top 15 and top 20 from Keselowski here. He only has one top 10 finish the past 6 races, but I'm not overly concerned. He finished 19th at Coda, but keep in mind, he was running into the top 10 until someone in my Discord jinxed him. And then, because as soon as he said Keselowski's running top 10, he instantly spun out, never really recovered. I mean, he did a little bit. He was in like the 30s, got up to 19th place, but still not enough to where you were overly excited about it. But the technical road course, I think we can have a little bit of Keselowski in our lineups, but not over the moon excited about Keselowski, to be honest. Christopher Bell, $8,400. He's starting in 20th. I think he's going to be very popular. too low of a price point for a guy starting 20th in Joe Gibbs equipment, which Joe Gibbs in the past has been very good at Sonoma. I'm not really sure if that's going to be the case. I feel like the Hendrick cars can definitely, I mean, the thing is with Joe Gibbs being good at Sonoma is because there's really good drivers like Truex, Kyle Busch. You have Denny Hamlin, obviously Eric Jones. I mean, he didn't really get to put many laps down at Sonoma much under Joe Gibbs' car, but I mean, I feel like the Gibbs will be strong once again. And don't forget, Christopher Bell, he won the Daytona Roval earlier this season. And if we're looking at his 4 Cup races at road courses in the past since 2020, he has 1 win, obviously, and he only has 1 top 20 finish, which obviously isn't great, but he's had some bad luck. And looking at his specific finishes, 38th, 1st, 24th, and 21st. But I still think Christopher Bell's got top 10 upside here. I don't think that would, I mean, you got to keep in mind a lot of those races were in the 95 car. So now that he's in the 20 car, obviously he wrecked out of the last race, which is going to skew his numbers a bit. But Christopher Bell should definitely be a contender here, $8,400 starting in 20th place. I think you could definitely play him in cash games and might end up being one of my higher owned drivers on the slate. I really do believe in Christopher Bell here. Then Matt DiBenedetto, $8,200 starting 17th. Wish he was a bit cheaper, and I'm sure all of you remember that really good run he had at Sonoma in 2019 where he's pretty much in a Gibbs car. But he was running really well. I think he was giving Truex a run for his money. I don't remember it exactly. I mean, it was a long time ago. And I feel like I was out by the cabin at the lake that day. But I think I remember going on the laptop at the end of the race. I saw MDB was crushing. I think he was running 2nd place. But I can get behind a little bit of MDB here. I mean, he's not the best road course driver in the world, but he's definitely got the upside for it. Looking at his road course finishes recently, 23rd, 37th. That's obviously not been a great stretch for him. Then 22nd, but then 15th, 11th, and 6th. And road courses can be a bit wonky. I'm willing to give him a pass on the last few races. So starting 17th, I think he's a fine tournament play. I think a lot of people are going to play Christopher Bell. You can pivot off of Bell to get to MDB. I'm not like super excited about MDB, to be honest. Like, he's probably going to finish close to where he starts. But if you're just looking for a pivot off of Bell, you could go the MDB route, but I'm not loving it. Same goes for Tyler Reddick, $8,000. He's starting in 10th. I think Reddick can be a potential top 10 guy here. The problem is he's starting 10th, and I can easily name 10 drivers that would probably finish above Reddick, like Bowman, Harvick, Kurt Busch, Byron, Larson, Hamlin, Logano, Busch, Elliott, Truex. So obviously something's going to happen to one of those guys. I don't think they're all going to finish top 10, so obviously there's going to be some bad luck somewhere where a surprise driver will finish inside the top 10. So Tyler Reddick could be one of those guys. He did finish 9th at COTA. He finished 12th at the Charlotte Roval in 2020. So there's definitely upside for Tyler Reddick here. I just don't like the starting spot much, so I won't have too much exposure to him. Dropping down to the 7K range, Aric Almirola, $7,100, 26. I think we all hate Aric, right? I think we can all get behind that. I mean, I don't think anyone likes Aric Almirola this year. We loved him last year. He crushed it for us. This year, absolute buns. He has been terrible. Like, every single week it's bad. He didn't wreck last week, which is positive. He finished 22nd and starting 31st. That's when he started. It wasn't the worst race in the world, but we want top 15s out of you, Aric. We want top 15s. We don't want top 25s. That's reserved for guys like Anthony Alfredo. We get excited for top 25s from a guy like Anthony Alfredo, not Aric Almirola. So, starting 26, Sonoma, he's okay here. 2 top 10s, 3 top 15s. I don't want to tell you to play Aric Almirola, but unfortunately I will be playing some. I know, it never ends well, but I will be playing some Aric Almirola because I know everyone's going to want to fade him, which I totally get. And if he does well at lower ownership, I'll be excited because I'm in a tournament and gives me a decent chance to take it down, but it probably won't end well. I think we know the case with Aric Almirola. I'm sure if he's running well, like a meteor will hit his car only, and then the race will go on. So just be very careful with AA this year. If you guys want to see his season numbers, which I know doesn't really have to do anything much with the road course this weekend, but he has an average finish of 24.4. I think that 22nd place finish bumped him up because I think he was at 26 last week. Then he has 1 top 10, 0 top 5s, and 2 top 15s. It's just terrible. What's Alfredo at? So Alfredo's got only 1 top 20. Almirola's got 5. I was going to see if they had similar numbers there, but I guess it's not quite that bad. But yeah, AA has been awful this year. Someone I do like a lot. I like Ross Chastain way more than I like Aric Almirola this week. $7,700 starting 29th. Don't look at the numbers at Sonoma because he was an absolute junk equipment, but in the 42 car, I think there's some upside here for Ross Chastain, and he looked super good at COTA, and if he can have a similar race that he had at COTA at Sonoma, he might be one of the best plays in the entire slate. Like, I don't think he's going to finish top 5, but if he can finish top 15, we'll be very excited about a top 15 finish starting 29th from Ross Chastain here. So I think you can play him in cash games. I think he's a very solid play this week. Again, not expecting another top 5, but a top 15 is certainly in the cards. Love the starting spot. Don't mind the price tag too much. Do I wish he was a little bit cheaper? Sure, but I'm not going to complain too much. I think Ross Chastain is a very, very strong play. as is Michael Mcdowell, $7,600. The guy is a very solid road course racer. Throughout the Charlotte Roval, where he finished 32nd. Besides that, typically a top 15 guy. 7th at Coda, 8th at the Daytona Roval earlier this season, 10th at Daytona Roval in 2020, 12th at the Charlotte Roval in 2019, and then 16th at Watkins Glen. Looking at his Sonoma number specifically, it hasn't been the greatest of times for him, but I'm thinking he can improve upon those, and I think he could potentially get his first top 10 finish at Sonoma. I don't think that would be anything too crazy here for Michael Mcdowell, one of the better road course drivers in the entire series, former go-kart racer. I think we all know that. But past 10 races at road courses, average finish of around 16, 3 top 10s, 4 top 15s, typically always inside the top 20. So Michael Mcdowell, I assume he'd be a little bit lower than Chastain, like him as a pivot, but you can always play both together. That should not be a problem. Cole Custer, $7,500. He is starting 23rd. Oh, one thing I want to mention, because I didn't talk about that with these rookies, like Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, and Cole Custer's not a rookie, but since they did run there last year, he's a Sonoma rookie. The Xfinity guys have never ran at Sonoma because they run at like mid-Ohio, so these guys have never had laps at Sonoma, so that's something to keep in mind, so that can be a little bit concerning. So I know I said I like Christopher Bell a lot, but there's one thing to kind of remember, but I definitely wouldn't fade a driver over it. But anyway, Cole Custer here, starting in 23rd. I don't know, I hate playing the Stewart Haas cars, but if I like Kevin Harvick, I mean, I guess I can't contradict myself and say I don't want to play Cole Custer because he's a Stewart Haas car, and he actually hasn't been terrible at the road courses. Yes, he has a 36th place finish and a 22nd, but keep in mind in Coda a couple weeks ago, he was on top of Truex's car, and obviously your day is going to be over at that point, but he finished 13th and 9th, and I think he could be a top 15 contender, definitely a top 20 contender. He's just mainly trying to get different off of Mcdowell and Chastain, because obviously I'm not going to play like 100% of those guys, so if you want to get a little bit off of those guys, Cole Custer's an okay play. Austin Dillon, $7,400. He sucks at road courses, so this is like the first guy I just really don't like. I might play like a handful of Austin Dillon just in case he can hold his ground, because the guy's actually, I mean, he finished 12th place at Coda, which isn't bad, but even finishing 12th, starting 6th is not going to be a good day for DFS purposes, so I can't imagine I'll have much Austin Dillon at all. Like the past 10 races, he only has 9 because he was out, I think, due to COVID, where Kaz Grala filled in last year, the Daytona Roval. But he has never finished at 25th at road courses, only 14 DraftKings points per race, 1 top 15 and 3 top 20s. Like he is bad at road courses, so not a big fan of Austin Dillon. Chris Buescher, $7,200. He's starting 12th. He just consistently finishes inside the top 20 at road courses. Like maybe it's never like super pretty, but it's like every single time at a road course he's going to finish inside the top 20. Like past 10 races at these track types, 14.5 average finish, and every single time in the top 10, which the only other drivers I can say that are Alex Bowman at $8,700, Denny Hamlin at $9,900, and I believe that is it. So yes, Buescher, Bowman, and Hamlin, the only drivers I can say they've finished inside the top 20 each of the past 10 road course races. So I know he's starting 12th, which is a bit scary, but I think he can hold that ground and finish inside the top 10 because he has been very good so far this season. Eric Jones, $7,000. He's starting in 18th. He's very good at road courses, and I realize he's no longer in the Joe Gibbs car, and he's never ran here without a Joe Gibbs car, but road courses are tracks where it's more driver skill than equipment. Like we saw Dinger earlier in the season in the 16 car, which obviously isn't the greatest equipment in the world. He got up front and he went through the entire field and got up front at some point. So I'm not overly concerned about equipment. I think Eric Jones can definitely have a very solid race. And so far this season, he's finished 16th and 14th. And then obviously last year was a Joey Gibbs car, but he finished 3rd and 11th and wrecked in 2019 and finished 4th at Watkins Glen. So I think I definitely like Eric Jones. I like the price point starting 18th. I'm hoping that keeps people off him because it's kind of scary in 18th because he's in the 43 car. But I think he can definitely wheel that 43 car to a top 15 finish, which is not bad. I mean, he could easily get a top 12 as well. So I'm definitely on Eric Jones here. I like that price point quite a bit. And dropping down to the 6K range, we have quite a few good plays here. Number one, we have Chase Briscoe, $6,900. Might end up being one of the more popular plays in the entire slate. Has he ever ran at Sonoma? No, but one thing I want to mention is that some people might not see this week is that he's actually running the ARCA race. I believe that's on Saturday here just to get some laps down at the track. So that is a positive thing for Chase Briscoe just to get some laps down on this track. So I think it's going to bode well for him. And he finished 6th at Coda a couple weeks ago. And Chase Briscoe, is a very good road course racer. He's been known for that. So below 7K starting in 25th. Expect Briscoe to be very popular, and I think it's for good reason. I would definitely be on the Briscoe train this weekend, and I think you guys should be as well. Ryan Preece, $6,800, starting 27th. Numbers at Sonoma aren't great, but he's actually been okay at the road course recently, just compared to his price point. I mean, finished 15th at Coda, 9th at the Roval and Daytona earlier this season, then 14th at Charlotte. So the past 3 road course races, he's got like an average finish of around like 12th or 13th place, which I I can totally dig that starting in 27th. I realize he's a bit pricier than normal. He's usually in that low 5K or upper 5K range, but you got to pay for some place differential here, and I would not mind playing some Ryan Preece. $6,600. He's starting 15th. He is terrible at road courses, like absolute dumpster fire at the road courses. Yes, he's in a better car now, but have fun trusting Bubba Wallace. I'll probably play like less than 5%, to be honest. I just can't see myself really getting on Bubba starting in 15th. I'd much rather play Ryan Preece. I'd rather play Suarez. I'd rather play pretty much everybody here besides Bubba Wallace. So not a big fan on Bubba this weekend. Daniel Suarez, $6,400, starting 16th. He's been okay at Sonoma in the past. You got to keep in mind, though, he's in Stewart Haas-Joe Gibbs equipment, which Trackhouse has been good. It's pretty much an RCR car, and I think Reddick's got top 10 upside, so I don't think it's out of the equation for Suarez, but I think we're realistically looking at more of a top 15 kind of a play here. And he did finish 16th at the Roval earlier this season, 33rd at Coda, which had some issues there, so won't put too much into that, but does have 3 top 20s in the top 15 here at Sonoma, and I think there's some upside here. I'll have a little bit of Suarez just to try to get different. Hope he kind of holds that ground and finishes inside the top 13 or something like that. But it's mainly just to try to get different from Ryan Preece and Chase Briscoe and Ryan Newman. But I definitely like Suarez more than I like Bubba Wallace. Ryan Newman, $6,300. He's starting 24th. Really good history here at Sonoma. 3 top 10s, 5 top 15s, average finish at 12.3. The Roush cars have been impressive this year. Although I will say Ryan Newman, the Ice Cream Man, did screw me last week. I had some potential qualifier takedown lineups, and it was like 2nd and 4th in the qualifier, and then he hit the wall and hurt my hopes and dreams. So that sucked. I'm sure he hurt your guys' lineups as well. But hey, I'm not seeing really many reasons not to want to play Ryan Newman here. He's dirt cheap. You got PD upside. He's very good at Sonoma. Guys that are usually good at road courses are just typically good at those courses every single time. So don't see why we're not going to like Ryan Newman here. I think you can definitely play him in cash games, and I would recommend you playing him in cash games. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., $6,100, starting 14th. Risky play in my opinion. You can play him in tournaments, don't play him in cash games. You're mainly just playing him because of this price tag that's really low, and he's been really good this year. Like, looking at his numbers, Stenhouse has 10 top 20 finishes, which is actually almost on par with guys like Austin Dillon, Chris Buescher, Bowman, Kevin Harvick. Like, he has been very solid and steady so far this season. I wouldn't say he's the best road course driver. Like, he's got finishes at 22nd, 18th, 17th, 16th, 17th, 15th, which is not bad. It's like, it's probably going to be right around where he finishes, and that's not terrible at his price point, but he is a risky play because there's always downside of him losing some spots. But he could finish from 10th to 15th place, probably more so like 15th to 18th place, but not a terrible play. I will have some exposure in tournaments, but definitely not going there in cash games. Corey LaJoie seems like a pretty strong fade to me. I'd rather play Stenhouse. I'd rather play Alfredo. I'd probably rather play Davison, to be honest, so not big on LaJoie here. Just don't think there's much upside for him starting in 22nd place. Dropping down to the 5K range. Again, Anthony Alfredo, he has had no laps here, definitely not in the Cup Series. But the road courses hasn't been bad for him this year. He finished 22nd at the Roval Daytona earlier this season, then 18th at Coda, and I don't hate him. $5,800, starting 28th. I feel like he could gain like 5 spots, and that's not bad at that price point. So as crazy as it sounds, I will be playing some Pasta Boy on Sunday. James Davison, $5,600. He's not a bad road course driver so far this season at the road courses. He's in junk equipment. I think we all know that, but he's finished 29th and 23rd. So starting 32nd, I don't think he's a terrible play. He could definitely pick up like 5 spots, which is not terrible at his price point. Ben Rhodes, $5,400. I actually think he's a decent scrub to use this week. He's in for Justin Haley this week in the 77 car for Spire Motorsports, and I think there's some top 30 upside there for Ben Rhodes. Now, I'm not playing any of these scrubs if I'm, like, from Davison and below, you're not playing these guys unless you're playing 150 lineups. Like, if you're playing a 20 max or a 3 entry or a single entry or cash games, there's no reason to play anyone below Anthony Alfredo. Even then, you're kind of pushing it with Alfredo. I don't think you have to go lower than Newman in this kind of contest, but absolutely not unless you're playing 150. And even then, I'm probably maxing out exposure like 3% on these guys. So that's something to keep in mind here. Like, if I say a guy's a decent pump play, it's not like saying, oh, okay, I'll play 25% of them this week. No, I'm talking like maybe 2 to 3% rather than just Xing them out. Josh Bilicki, if you're just looking purely for some place differential down here, it's not terrible. He did finish 30th at Coda, but you're just hoping for some guys to have problem for him to really gain any spots here and just have a clean race. Garrett Smithley, he's, oddly enough, he's actually finished inside the top 30 the past 2 road course races, 28th and 27th. So maybe there's something there for Smithley. Again, you're just kind of hoping he avoids carnage, but he's so far been able to do that. Obviously no laps at Sonoma, but 34th, not terrible. Scott Heckert, $4,800, and 78 car for not BJ McLeod Motorsports, for Live Fast Motorsports from BJ McLeod. But looking at his numbers, he finished 20th at the Roval earlier this season, so maybe he can finish out the top 30, which is not bad. $4,800, 30th, 35th. But again, we're talking 150 max lineups only. If you guys aren't building 150 lineups, I don't think there's any reason to want to play any of these guys unless you're just trying to make an absolute star-studded lineup and you have to go down to one of these guys. Cody Ware, so far this season, he's finished 32nd and 25th. So again, these, like, if they avoid carnage, these guys can move up some spots, which there's always going to be some guys that usually wreck out of a road course and end up just overshooting a turn or something. So they can avoid wrecks. Yeah, it's fine. It's just I don't have much hope for them. Quinn Houff, I'm not going to play Quinn Houff. I'd rather play Cody Ware or Scott Heckert, to be honest. But with that being said, guys, that's going to be it for the video. So if you made it all the way through, please let me know. I do appreciate the people that do watch the entire video. If you want to follow me over on social media, Pennell16 on Twitter, CPen16 over on IG, hit me up over there. Do appreciate the people that do follow me over on the social medias. Makes me feel good. And anything that helps for the channel over on Patreon, I truly do believe, and I mean this, I'm not just saying that to sell you guys on something. I truly believe this is the best NASCAR DFS community out there by far. I don't even think it's close. So if you want to join the community, link is down below for that. And I give you guys a whole bunch of extra content. I'm already working on my breakdown article, and I put my heart into this each and every single week. There's a ton of content on there that I think you guys will enjoy, and it should help you out every single week. We've had guys take down tournaments quite a few times this season and last year as well, including myself. So if you guys want to look at all the tools that I look at each and every single week, they are available to you on the site. But I think that's going to be pretty much it, guys. Like and subscribe. Again, if we get over 300 likes, I would appreciate that. And yeah, I think that's about it. So I appreciate you listening, and I'll see you guys in the live stream on Sunday at around probably 2 p.m. Eastern.